Welcome back to some new r/PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Have Fun with the Traffic. A few years back, I was working at a hotel. My job was the shuttle driver for the airline crew, and I also had to load and unload their luggage. About 6 months into the job, my wrist started hurting from handling the loads of bricks that airline crews like to pack. I ended up having to file a workers' compensation claim, but there was no one else to handle the luggage, so I struggled along for a while. I asked to be moved to a front desk position, but was offered laundry, which would not have been much easier on my wrist. After a couple of months of going to doctor appointments and getting MRIs, I finally decided I'd had enough. I had a doctor write me a note stating that I needed lighter duty. I should have done that much earlier, but the boss, Beth, wasn't being helpful at all, and I knew that would be the end of my working there. In the meantime, a front desk position had opened up, which my boss promptly filled without asking me if I wanted it. I went into her office to ask about this apparent oversight and got some corporate speak in response. The hotel was right next to a major highway. I knew the back roads between the airport and the hotel, so traffic jams on the highway weren't a huge deal to me. When I went into the boss's office to have the conversation, we were 2 days away from having the president visit the city. That meant that most traffic would come to a standstill, but airline crews still needed to get to their flights. After my boss gave me a thinly veiled, corporate-approved screw-off, I pulled the doctor's note out of my pocket. I'm sorry, I can no longer perform the job of shuttle driver. You've offered me laundry, which won't work, and didn't want to work with me on a front desk position. Have fun in traffic on Thursday. The shocked look on her face was priceless. She called another manager into the office to try to get me to stay. Laundry was mentioned again. I simply pointed to the note and said, I can't do anything that will be hard on my wrist. I've asked more than once about the front desk, which I'm more than capable of doing, but I guess that's not an option now that Beth filled the position. I heard later from a coworker that Beth herself had to do the shuttle once that day. I enjoyed my day on the couch, and occasionally checked to see how bad the traffic was. The next story is called Bad Boss Got What He Deserved. Our town used to have sidewalk sale days once a summer. Every store would put a table out front with great deals on it. Everyone would come down, and the whole downtown would be hopping. Usually more business than Christmas. I worked at one of these stores for a guy who was the cheapest jerk around. He would ding your pay for any minor infraction he decided you made. He was constantly doing this to claw back 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there. He did tons of other shady stuff too. He also bought used vacuum cleaners at yard sales to clean the store with. This was in the mid-1980s, before cell phones. So, Friday of the big weekend rolls around, and I worked and closed up. I went to vacuum, and the thing shot sparks out, started to smoke, and had a burning rubber smell come out of it. I rushed it out into the alley behind the store, and left him a note as to why the floor hadn't been vacuumed properly, but that I tried to sweep it with the broom as best as I could. The next morning, I opened and found a note from him that the floor wasn't clean, so he docked me an hour's pay. He had another store in a neighboring state, so wouldn't be in that day either. I was pretty livid. I was a high school kid, opening and closing, working solo all day long, with no breaks, and in constant fear of getting dinged for minor violations. The vacuum incident was the last straw. I wrote a lengthy note back, took the phone off the hook, locked the door, and slid the key under it on the busiest weekend of the year for him, and walked away. The last story is called Made Them Pay For It. Nearly 2 decades ago, I worked for a mortgage brokerage company. It was in the same building and owned by a branch of a big bank. All our accounts were through that bank. While working there, I also opened an account through that bank. I'd been at that job for nearly a year and a half and had an account through the same bank. Our GL accounts didn't change, and we were not overdrafted. We paid said bank to print our weekly paychecks. I was a very young loan officer and lived pretty close to paycheck. I was moving and found a great apartment, and between my very tiny savings and weekly pay, I had my deposit in first. That Friday, when I received the check, I rocked back down from the third floor to the first and deposited the money into an account from the same bank to the same bank. They randomly decided to put a 10 business day hold on the check, and my deposit check and all transactions overdrafted, totaling about $750. My deposit to the new apartment overdrafted, so I nearly lost the place I was moving to. They had zero explanation as to why they picked this one check out of over 70 to hold, and why they put through first all large transactions, so that the small $2 would also overdraft. But they did. As a courtesy, they waived some of the charges, but I was still on the hook for over half. Plus, I almost lost my apartment, and while living there could now only drive a money order 30 miles away to pay rent. I paid all their stupid fees, and then signed the paperwork to close the account. They wouldn't fix their mistake, nor give any explanation. 1 week later, they called, and apparently they'd miscalculated, and I had 51 cents left. I couldn't close the account with a balance. I told them to mail me their stupid 51-cent check, but they told me that I had to physically go in. I refused, despite being in the same building. For over 12 years, I received a statement each month with the posted charges shown, and quarterly I'd receive a new card that I'd never activate, again with postage. Because I'd answer calls, they couldn't close the account, as I could be contacted. They changed checking plans multiple times, and called constantly to get me to change from grandfathered accounts. I'd merrily chat with the rep, but not budge. Finally, after over 12 years, they found a way to force me to change accounts, or start charging a maintenance fee. I told them to mail me my check, and they finally complied. It took them over 12 years to do what I requested to begin with. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.